Yo, what's good, everybody? It is your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is What If Deku Had an Angel Quirk, the movie, but today we're actually doing something a little bit different in terms of the style of what if I want to approach this as. We are going to do this a little bit faster pace, so this video might be more like 35 to 40 minutes. I haven't decided just yet on how long it's going to be. But in terms of story, it's going to be less narrative and more me breaking down what I believe could have happened or, well, would have happened. And in a reality where Deku actually has a quirk known as an angel quirk. And we'll be talking about different things that may ensue and different things that could possibly happen because of him having said quirk. Now, for starters, I want to say this. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the videos, especially the longer types where we're doing one-shots, we're just doing movies. I'm glad to hear that you guys are enjoying them. As always, though, make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Everything helps. Every last bit of it helps. Check the links in the description. We have a Spotify, we have membership, we have a Discord, we have all that good stuff. Now, with all that said, I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into it, so let's get it. Let's start the journey in the world of My Hero Academia. We all know what My Hero Academia is made of. It is made of quirks. Now, quirks do vary in power. Quirks vary from, your typical powerful quirk like, All Might's strength or even Bakugo's explosions to even something as simple as, being better at fighting, or something as simple as having an easier time when shooting a gun. Those are the type of quirks, like simple quirks that you could be, but also there's quirks where maybe your eyes pop out of your head and that's literally it. That's the reality of what this world is and the possibilities of what quirks you can possibly have. But what happens when you have a little kid by the name of Izuku Midoriya who normally is born without a quirk, but this time around is born with one? But when he is born with little tiny angel wings. And everybody off the bat would, let's just say this, immediately think that he is some either odd creature or he is like a descendant from heaven itself. Like, those are definitely the two things that people would think. It would either be that they think he's, some weird little bird thing, like a little bird thing that's kind of odd, or they would think that it's literally like a descendant of like from the other world or some other world. Now, Izuku would have a multitude of powers because of this. His angel quirk would grant him a multitude of powers, and that would include, well, obviously wings, being that he's able to fly. These large feathered wings that would grant him that ability to fly at high speeds, and maybe even to an extent use his wings as basically like shields or even weapons in combat. Now that would be for a little bit later, but there's many other things that we could include here. He could possibly and most definitely would have healing like powers to heal himself, heal other people by just literally touching them, or maybe even from a distance be able to heal others and regenerate maybe even lost limbs. And the healing powers is going to be the big part of this idea for Izuku Midoriya, because now we could lean into these other ideas of what powers he may show, but I want to get to those later on in the story and talk about how they would fit into to the basis of My Hero Academia. But for starters, I really want to talk about just the basis of it, right? The basis of what he has, and the basis is his ability to fly, his ability to utilize his wings either as weapons or as shields, and on top of that, his ability to heal. And those are big ideas. Now, he would go through kind of life from his normal age to around the age of 15, to where we normally get to the teacher telling everybody that he knows he wants them all to be, or all of them want to be heroes. From then to there, we definitely have Izuku not being the most popular person in the world. Yes, it is cool that he has wings. Yes, it is cool that he can fly, but it doesn't really make him that cool in general, because a lot of these other students really need to have more popular quirks, more flashy quirks, and that's what Bakugo has, a really flashy quirk. Now, having wings is pretty damn cool in my book, but being able to basically just only fly and not really show off your healing powers or have some crazy divine kind of light manipulation, well, that would obviously make it so that Izuku is not as popular as he possibly could be. But of course, we know that popularity doesn't necessarily matter, and to a large degree doesn't matter at all. And we know that this would lead him to the interaction with the sludge villain, because that's the next main detail we have to worry about. And the interaction with the sludge villain is pretty basic, where he's able to fly away from the sludge villain very easily, not getting caught out at all, and having All Might obviously destroy the sludge villain without him, well, being in harm's way. And that would be a big thing for Izuku, being able to actually get away from the sludge villain and not be interacted with in that regard. Now, this would be the first interaction with All Might, and All Might would obviously talk to him normally, you know how he normally talks to Izuku Midoriya when he first met him. But one thing would be Izuku realizing that All Might has a massive gash on his his lung or on his chest, and that he can actually heal him. But obviously he doesn't know that he has the full capabilities of healing him at this moment, but it is something that Izuku basically will know how to do eventually. And Izuku will know that he'll be able to actually heal All Might in the near future. Now, for now though, he kind of sets his eyes on the UA entrance exam, and the UA entrance exam is something that is going to be mildly difficult for Izuku Midoriya just because of what he has as a quirk. Now, most of his stuff has a lot to deal with healing and or flight and stuff like that, but in terms of the UA entrance exam, fighting off of these robots is not going to be that easy for Izuku. It's not going to be insanely difficult, but it's also not going to be that easy. So when he would fly around, he would be able to destroy robots, but just not that fast. Like, he wouldn't be able to destroy them at some insane speeds, flying around, throwing feathers at them. No. Like, he'll have to actually work for destroying certain robots, but the real point is when he would actually start helping people. Anybody who has, needs some healing, he's able to actually heal them. Anybody who needs help, like Ochaku or Raka, who obviously will need help, he's easily able to pick her up, fly her away, and heal her, or just heal her in general and have her handle her own business by being able to get the rocks off of her. And that's a massive W for Izuku Midoriya, because Izuku is able to gain a lot of points from that more specifically, because those are like hero/rescue points. And that is how Izuku Midoriya, well, he'll be able to gain more points than normal, right? A lot more than normal. Now, he wouldn't be the #1 student, but he definitely would do a pretty damn good job in terms of the overarching idea of the UA entrance exam. And he would do a pretty damn good job just in general with the UA entrance exam. And obviously, I think most of you guys would agree on the fact that he would get into UA. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Izuku has the qualities to definitely set himself up to get into UA, and he would definitely allow himself to get into UA more specifically. Now, what would happen when he gets into UA? Well, for starters, we have Aizawa and setting up for the quirk assessment. How does he do in the quirk assessment? Well, in terms of some aspects, he definitely would flourish a lot more in terms of, like, your speed, your agility, and stuff like that. In terms of raw power, though, Izuku definitely lacks in raw power, so he wouldn't be able to, have the best scores there. But in terms of just flat out, just speed and agility and all this other stuff, he would benefit from the quirk assessment pretty heavily. And the quirk assessment, he would be able to pass it with flying colors. Like, he would pass it pretty well, getting in that top 10 range. And Izuku would continue to kind of elevate himself, and he could continue to actually increase his strength and speed over the time, or over all this time of training and stuff like that. And leading into the heroes versus villains training, Izuku Midoriya would do pretty well against someone like Bakugo, But like I said before, he's more of a support-like hero in the regard of what he can do. So in terms of fighting Bakugo, yes, he would definitely be able to fight him, but the explosions on his wings would not fare well in terms of the actual fight, and the explosions would not help with kind of his ability to move. I think him and Bakugo would definitely fight to a standstill, and this would rely heavily on Izuku somehow getting past Bakugo, which I believe he would be able to eventually, and there's a good chance that Izuku is able to touch the bomb, but even if he isn't, he'll be really close, and I think this would be a very even outing for both Izuku and Bakugo. But as Izuku develops his powers more and more, he'll become more and more kind of a beneficial for hero society than maybe even Bakugo himself. Now, as we leave the heroes versus villains training behind us, we do lead into the USJ, or the rescue facility. Now, the UA rescue facility, or the USJ rescue facility, is an important part of the story because of what happens. What happens is the League of Villains attack, obviously. And the League of Villains is a very, very, very strong group of villains that they're going to have to deal with. And this is where I think, personally, Izuku gets quite a bit of usage. For one, they're not going to have Tenya Ida run back to try and tell and help and ask for heroes or get the heroes to help. Izuku is going to fly back himself at very, very quick speeds, get help, get All Might, and fly right back. Because when he flies right back, he's able to actually fly around and even help his fellow classmates get out of situations and circumstances that they necessarily wouldn't be able to get out themselves. And that's a big part of his quirk. He's a very good rescue like hero, and a very good rescue kind of person in general. And this is where he would get a ton of usage. I mean, ironically enough, he would get usage in the rescue facility, even though he's not necessarily doing the rescuing, but he would help a ton of people out nonetheless, helping people get out of certain circumstances, like I said. But also, one major factor he would have is in the fight with All Might and the Nomu, because there's a good chance that Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nomu don't actually get out at all. And the reason for this is Izuku's ability to actually heal. Izuku's ability to heal and help All Might actually overcome the Nomu and the rest of the villains is a big part of this storyline, because Izuku Midoriya is going to be able to heal All Might in the fight, and probably even heal the long-lasting wound that he doesn't even necessarily know about, making it so All Might is close to peak condition all over again, just because Izuku tried to help him, shining a bright light on him, healing him as much as possible, and healing him to the point where it was almost like he had you could say, an absolute, just perfect person to be able to support him, but also an absolute blessing to be placed upon him. And Izuku was able to gift him just that and allow him to continue fighting the Nomu, but at a totally different advantage, allowing him to fight the Nomu at a massive advantage against it, but also fight against Shigaraki and Kurogiri very easily without being, extremely tired or anything like that. Izuku was able to refresh not only his wounds from a long time ago, but also refresh him in terms of stamina and also his just endurance in general. And if he's able to do that, that allows for one of the strongest heroes to ever exist to be close to peak condition. Now, is he going to be Prime All Might? No, of course not. He still has plans to gift the power of One For All, but even if he hasn't actually gifted the power of One For All off just yet, being able to basically be at tip-top shape would put him close to Prime All Might, but not to the point that he would 100% be at, because I don't think Izuku's healing would be able to heal him back to peak condition. I mean, it would heal him back to a good condition, a really good condition, but I don't think it would heal him back to the peak condition, because that's talking rewinding the clock, right? So putting him back to a specific age. And Izuku's quirk, well, it doesn't necessarily do that either. It doesn't rewind you back to a certain age. It heals you and cures you of certain things, and that's what he's able to do. Now, in terms of All Might being able to take out, knock out, or secure Shigaraki and Kurogiri, that's a bit iffy, right? There's a good chance that that portal opens and they leave the Nomu behind and they actually get away, which that's what we're going to be going with this time around, is that they actually do get away and that we will be seeing them a little bit later. Now, this is when we would head into a couple day break and then into the UA Sports Festival. And the UA Sports Festival, well, he would be really good in the UA Sports Festival for two kind of big components, right? We have the obstacle course race, which he can fly straight over at really fast speeds. And secondly, we have the cavalry battle, where he could literally just fly everybody up and no one would be able to touch them. And his wings would be powerful enough to do this by far, with how fast and how strong they are in general. He could also use them as shields and stuff like that, which would definitely get more into when we go into the 1-versus-1 fights, which he would obviously start against Shinso or Hitoshi Shinso. And this fight is an interesting one because this is where we're talking about Izuku, who, in terms of emotional and also in terms of how he is as a person, he might even consider allowing basically Shinso to continue on, because he might allow, maybe take the dive so that Shinso can actually push forward and continue on and hopefully get to the point that he wants to get to as a hero, the chance that he never got, and that would be Izuku allowing him to get that chance. Now, would he do it? I'm not 100% on the idea of him doing it, but even if he doesn't, Izuku would go into the fight with someone like Todoroki and would get the best out of Todoroki, trying to get him to use his fire powers. And once that happens, Izuku's not going to be able to keep up with Todoroki in terms of the raw power that he upscales. But there is one thing that he will be able to show, and that's his new power in terms of light manipulation. Being able to generate this light to basically stun Todoroki, but it's still not enough in terms of the raw power that he's displaying. But he does allow and help Todoroki get over his kind of fear and also his anger toward his father and get him to use his fire side. And he shows off an incredible power that a lot of people were waiting for and are waiting to really see. But this is honestly, in my opinion, where I think Izuku's run in the UA Sports Festival would eventually come to an end. But we all know that this is just one thing, and the UA Sports Festival would eventually lead to other opportunities like the internships. And the internships would be a big thing for Izuku, especially when working with certain people. But what kind of people would he actually be able to work with? There's really not a ton of people that would necessarily take him on, quote unquote, in terms of allowing him on their team, allowing them in their agencies, whatever. But having somebody who can kind of heal, who has, fast-paced flying and stuff like that. I mean, maybe Hawks decides to take him on and try to give him a little bit of that swagger, because Izuku is an angel in all retrospect. I mean, he is literally like the nicest person ever. He's so sweet. He's this and that. But Hawks, he has that little cockiness to him. Maybe Hawks will try to take him on and help him be a little bit more of that kind of outgoing / kind of show off that Hawks really is, trying to get him to utilize that flight, utilize those wings to a different scale, maybe even utilize them in a more offensive way instead of a more defensive way. And this is where I could see a little bit of back and forth possibly in terms of Izuku believing that protecting those in need is more important than fighting those who are trying to hurt. And Izuku believes that that's what he should do, more kind of focus on the shielding / protection of his wings. But Hawks believes that his wings are so dynamic that he'll be able to use them as weapons in combat to maybe even a better degree that even Hawks himself is doing. But Hawks just doesn't want him to waste his potential and waste the abilities that really he has. And he tries to help him and tries to get him to find and also come up with new ways to utilize his powers, and that includes not only his wings, but his healing powers, either to heal himself or other people, but also his light manipulation that he showed off just a glimpse of in the UA Sports Festival. And Izuku, well, he can, even if he wants to continue being that kind of helpful / support / frontline support type of person and type of hero, he can do that all he wants, feel free, but he has to know how to utilize every little aspect, being that of generating those flashes of light to stun enemies, being able to construct kind of light in general, maybe even be able to construct light into weapons or shields and stuff like that, and utilize it to a large degree. And that's where he is kind of at in terms of those ideas. And I think the training with Hawks would open up a new realm of possibility for Izuku, not only to help him fly to an even better degree, but also how to use his wings in different ways, how to use his powers not for support necessarily, but also for that offensive cocky style that Hawks really likes to show. But I think this is definitely the perfect person for Izuku to truly train with. Now, is there a guarantee he gets in to help or get help from someone like Hawks? Of course not. But I think for a story and for a narrative, I think it's perfect. I think Izuku would be perfect to train with Hawks, and him being a high level hero like that, he would on top of that get a ton of attention from everybody, and a ton of attention even outside of something like the UA Sports Festival. But obviously we know him being with Hawks, there's a good chance that he actually doesn't show up for the Hosu City kind of invasion. And guess who gets hurt, massively hurt because of it? That being Tenya Ida. But of course, Izuku has the power to heal, has the power to really kind of cure so much from Tenya in terms of, you know, all the horrible cuts and very, very, very bad things that happened to him via the hero killer, which I believe still would probably be stopped by someone like Endeavor. But Izuku would be able to heal him up and save him, luckily enough, and even in time for their final exams. But of course, everybody basically berates him and tells him, like, you should have never done something like you were an idiot. Why would you do that? Like Izuku might have the powers to save you and help you and make you feel better, and also put you in a position where you're not, you know, completely cut up and dead, but it doesn't mean he should be put in a position where he has to. And that right there is what matters. Just because you have an angel by your side that can save you doesn't mean you should give him something to save. That is a horrible idea, and something that Aizawa even starts to instill in everybody, telling them all that they have to prepare for this final exam like their life depends on it, and they should cross off every single mark, every single box, make sure everything is checked, and make sure everything is in tip-top shape. And that's what they do. They prepare massively, helping each other prepare for you know, through studies and stuff like that, and they prepare for that written portion. But of course, we don't want to talk about the written portion. I'm sure a lot of people and a lot of us want to talk about the practical. How does the practical go? Well, Izuku would be teamed up with probably someone like Bakugo once again. Going against All Might is a feat that, my opinion, isn't going to be plausible in terms of raw power. Now, would he be able to take on All Might 2-on-1 with Bakugo, with the help of Bakugo? No. Does it make it even worse that Bakugo refuses to actually help alongside Izuku and listen to a single plan? Of course, because that's exactly what happens. Bakugo doesn't listen. Bakugo doesn't go with a plan. He doesn't care. He tries to think that he can outpower All Might himself, which is idiotic, and Izuku has to heal him, help him, and eventually would lead to him blinding All Might via his flash of light manipulation, grabbing onto Bakugo and just flying both of them out through the exits to get quote-unquote help. But really the idea is, if you escape, you win and or pass the exam. And that's exactly what occurs. Now, in terms of Bakugo, he would get a stern warning from Aizawa, and Aizawa would tell him straight up that that he really needs to learn to work with others, because that guy right there that just saved him might be saving him in the near future when he's out on the field and actually dealing with real villains. Because if they're out there and he refuses help and then he dies, well, let's just say there is no bringing him back from the brink of death. And with Izuku, well, he looks at Aizawa and looks at Bakugo, and they both look at him, and Aizawa asks him, "Can you really bring people back from the brink of death?" And which Izuku shrugs his shoulders and says that hopefully they never have to come to that, because he has healed people that were massively hurt, aka someone like Tenya Ida, who was hurt pretty bad, but he's never, well, brought someone back from the dead. Like, let's try to avoid that the best we possibly can. And yeah, that's the reality of it. Nobody wants to have to bring somebody back from the dead, and or he doesn't even know if he could, even if he wanted to. But with all that said and done, the forest training camp is eventually upon them, and the forest training camp is going to be fruitful, at least for the couple days that they are allowed to do so, until the villains end up attacking. And now this is a scary one, because Izuku normally will take on Muscular and basically take him on in the defense of Koda. Now, he would not have the power and the ability to really take on someone as strong as Muscular in terms of raw power, but he can blind him and get Koda out of harm's way. And that's exactly what he does. And we can talk kind of about Koda's relationship with Izuku, that it's a lot better in this reality, because for the most part, everybody kind of likes Izuku and everybody kind of likes to be around him. It might be kind of like an aura of things. Maybe there's something about the way he talks, the way he walks, the way he acts, all of these things. It might just all enact in everybody liking him a lot more. Probably a part of his quirk. And, well, most definitely a part of his quirk, being that it is something to do with him being an angel. And Izuku, well, he definitely has the same idea with Koda, who Koda definitely relies on him and also trusts him a lot more, leading him to blinding the Muscular, of course, and getting him to safety pretty damn quickly. Now, with all that said, they're going to have to handle Muscular as a team later on anyways, but with the help of the other heroes that are there and all of the above, the idea is pretty basic to stop Muscular and all the rest of them, but they would still eventually get away with kidnapping Bakugo. And the reason for this is because at the UA Sports Festival, Bakugo would still complain and you know, just do this whole tantrum of why this should have happened, or this should have happened, and this should have happened, and we all know Bakugo. So that whole tantrum still happened, so the whole kidnap still happened, which would lead to an eventual kind of fight between All Mights. Now, normally we have All Might fighting All for One, and then we have the League of Villains kind of fighting with Bakugo, and then they come to help, like Izuku and many others come to help. Now, this time around, All Might is a lot stronger, so defeating All for One would be a lot quicker, not having to really give up much room for All for One to even hurt All Might that much. So the healing that Izuku had initially definitely is showing here and now. And on top of that, when he arrives onto the scene with some of his classmates, being able to fly in some of the UA's student heroes, he'll be able to swoop up Bakugo very easily, and All Might would even be able to ensue in helping stop the others of the League of Villains, leading to the League of Villains being captured and defeated relatively quickly. And that would include people like Dabi, like Shigaraki, and all of the above, including someone like Kurogiri, and the entirety of the League of Villains, including All for One, would be captured in this moment and in this mission. And even if they weren't captured in this moment and in this mission, I can't see them dealing well with an All Might who is completely healthy and possibly still passing on his quirk to someone else, and probably holding on to a little bit more than just the embers of One for All. And we have a way more peak candidate of All Might, a really strong All Might, so we definitely have a better scenario for all of these things. But in my opinion, we do get Shigaraki and the rest of the League of Villains being captured right now. Now, after the capture of those League of Villains, We obviously have the whole super moves thing, which isn't that important for Izuku, but he would start kind of realizing the strength and speed he really has. It's as if he's been developing it more and more with every kind of good deed he does, and that is legitimately the reality of it. His quirk has a kind of extra thing to it where when he continues to do good deeds, when he continues to do better and better and better, he gains strength and power, and that is known as his divine strength and speed, allowing him to have more physical capabilities, making him stronger, faster, way faster and stronger than the average human. And it would include possibly like superhuman reflexes and or agility, and it would allow him to do things at a way more rapid and fast-paced rate, leading him to go into the provisional hero license exam and potentially being pretty damn strong for it. Now, the first part is probably the most challenging part for Izuku in terms of getting those tags on the other people, but he's so fast and his ability to fly would allow him to do those things pretty simply. But the real place he's going to shine is that final part of that UA exam, or not the UA exam, excuse me, the provisional exam. Where he's going to shine really is during that rescue portion. Rescuing people is his big thing. He has a whole healing factor. He can make sure that everyone is safe and sound. He can make sure every single person he saves actually feels like okay, feels good and feels soothed and all right. And that's another part of his quirk, being able to have an odd hypnotic / soothing voice that would actually calm and have this, I wouldn't call it mind controlling effect, but it would have this kind of calming effect on someone's mind who would either be of, just really, really, really angry, either angry, sad, mad, or anything you could think of, right? Scared. And he's able to soothe them massively, calming them down and definitely getting them back to normal. And he doesn't use this to a day-to-day basis, but it's something that he realized he had while training and working, and also just realizing that that a lot of people that surround him really do enjoy his company. And he realizes that he's actually been using that soothing voice a little too much, and he realizes how to restrict himself and stuff like that. But he helps with the rescue, or quote unquote rescue, of many people who are fake in trouble or fake in a bad spot. And this would lead to obviously him being able to save a bunch of people, help a bunch of people. But in terms of the actual fight with Gang Orca and stuff like that, he won't help a ton, but he could keep people from getting hurt. He can also keep people, or keep the other villains at bay with blinding them and stuff like that, and flying around and knocking a couple of them out. In terms of Gang Orca, he might be able to even set up an attack from Inasa and Todoroki, using that divine light that he would be able to utilize to blind him, and that would lead to them getting a very easy attack on for the most part, Gang Orca and them. Very easy, a very easy attack and a very easy setup attack. And Izuku would do all of those things, obviously, and he would prevent and also help his entire team and help a lot of the people pass the exam, honestly, because of him. This would lead to him borderline getting a perfect score in the provisional hero license exam, and even the kind of the proctors of the exam would approach him and say that they need more people like him to basically to be heroes. Like, he is probably the definition of a selfless hero. There's a lot of people nowadays who will go out and they want to be cocky. They want to be the best. They want to be the strongest in the room. They want to be the best in the room. But him, it seems like he's really, really kind of on it about the idea of that being a hero is helping people. Being a hero is doing your best, helping people, save people, and so on, and do it all with a smile, right? Do it all with kind of a voice of helpfulness and soothing and all of that, on all of the above. And he's able to just notch off every single part on that list, right? He's able to notch off every single part. Now, after the provisional hero license exam is all said and done, we obviously get the whole thing with Mirio Togata. I don't think Izuku would be able to really do much to Mirio here. I mean, he doesn't have any like special things to actually take Mirio down. Will he be able to fly around, keep up with him in terms of pacing? Yeah, probably. But in terms of like figuring out his powers and stopping the permeation and doing all that stuff, I don't think he'll be able to do that by any means. But I do believe he would actually catch the eye of Mirio and really catch the eye or that would mean catching the eye of someone like Sir Night-Eye. And, well, no pun intended. But catching the eye of Sir Night-Eye is a big deal because Izuku would then be able to help with Sir Night-Eye's kind of quest or kind of, whole sting to find Overhaul or get Overhaul in general. Now, this would be a big question. How would he approach the idea of Overhaul or the actual first meeting with Overhaul? Now, for starters, he could grab Eri and just fly off, and then they kind of have to deal with it in the near future. Or we could possibly see him, blind Overhaul and lead to him escaping with Eri. But this could put a lot of different people at risk and a lot of different people in a bad spot. So I could see that maybe Izuku tries his best to lull Overhaul into a sense of kind of safe security, keeping him exactly where they are as they actually get some information. And as he's telling Overhaul these things, so he's like, you know what? I actually know a place to get something for your daughter's, her wounds. And I know she's very clumsy. A lot of children are clumsy. And he says, I had the perfect thing. Let me fly back home. I'll grab it, give it to you, and you'll be on your way. And I promise I'll be quick. And in doing this, Overhaul actually agrees with it, which is weird. Even Mirio's like, what? Like, why did he just agree with that? In which Izuku would go out of his way to get the said thing that he was looking for, but he would also get the police, other heroes, and other people prepared to stop Overhaul. And that's exactly what happens, right? Overhaul tries his best to actually, put himself in a position to, for the most part, defeat / kill these people. But while he's blinded, knocked out, and punched in the face, all those stuff, where Izuku's able to blind him and kind of get the upper hand very quickly with the help of Mirio and other heroes, since they're able to and also in position to, they're able to stop Overhaul before he can do anything, save Eri before they even go back to the Shihazaikai base. But on top of that, get more information about where the Shihazaikai base is, and now they can invade the base without actually having to worry about someone like Overhaul. And that right there is a big freaking deal, like a really big deal, making the invasion of the Shihazaikai base about 10 times easier, right? Way easier than normal. And they're able to invade the base with the help of Izuku, healing, helping, and also protecting those that need it. And on top of that, he keeps everybody from losing really any stamina, any endurance, whatever you can think of. He blinds a ton of the villains that need to be blinded, and he sets up other people, but he also can hold his own, right? He had that training with Hawks, which eventually he would go back to training with someone like him, but he had that training with Hawks that really has molded him into a way better fighter, a way better warrior, in fact, allowing himself to use that light manipulation to even create weapons of his own, like weapons like light swords or something along those lines, allowing him to really fight as well as be the perfect rescue / support hero to borderline ever exist. And the capture of Overhaul and all of those things, big deal, massive deal. And Izuku, that would lead him into going, back to UA for his classes, his studies, but also his training. And that would be against, Class 1A versus Class 1B. Now, nothing really changes in terms of his fight, I would say. Yes, he's a lot different than he would have been normally, but in terms of the power, what he has, his speed and strength, the kind of overarching kind of progress he's made, which, by the way, he could make even more progress, but he hasn't necessarily gotten to that point yet. He's already at the point of a pro hero level, putting him way beyond these other people and these other students that he'd be facing down, and he'd be able to defeat them with the help of his other classmates like Mina, Mineta, Ochako, and they would be able to defeat their 4v5 or 4 versus 5 very, very easily, just with how well Izuku and the others can move around and how well they can set each other up. And Izuku's just honestly a one-man wrecking crew. It's honestly unfair at this point because of his ability to fly, his kind of divine strength and speed, the light manipulation that allows him to not only stun people, but also allows him to create weapons from light as well. And it allows him to really excel in this and also show everybody the type of level he's at right now, the type of kind of absolute level Izuku Midoriya is at this moment, putting him in a different stratosphere compared to the other students. Now, this is where things obviously change. We can't force into a war arc that doesn't exist with the League of Villains captured, put away already. Same thing with All For One and all of them. But they would have to deal with the Meta Liberation Front in a kind of off the grid city itself. Something that Izuku himself, I could see Izuku going there as a scouting like mission and even talking to them, relating with them, and kind of soothing them and telling them, like, look, living life, you know, the way you're living it, yes, he understands what they're going through, he understands what they're trying to do, but they should really enter society once again and do this and do that. And he really can sit there and convince them. And that's a big thing that Izuku can do as well. His voice and vocal kind of soothing allows him to do just that. His vocal soothing allows him to really help those who are kind of misunderstood or help those who really need help in general. And that's what he would be able to do here too. Now, I think most of you have an understanding of what this quirk is like and what this quirk can truly do. I mean, we're talking his ability to fly, his enhanced strength, light manipulation, healing powers, and those right there, just alone, right, are already putting him in the stratosphere of one of the top heroes to ever exist. And his ability to have a calming presence, which being a hero with a calming presence, someone that villains, they don't fear necessarily, but they feel comfortable around and they feel like they want to be better because of it. Come on, that is a big thing for heroes alike. Now, we could go down the route of maybe Izuku has a little bit of that anger within him and a little bit of that anger that seeps out, and it leads him to having a kind of temporary power-up known as a judgment mode, which would be more of like a darker, kind of more brutal and a stronger, more durable, and has enhanced abilities, maybe even kind of intense emotions, allow for a presence of evil to even show its face, for kind of putting him over the edge to a different degree, kind of taking him away from that nice, simple, kind type of person to a more intense, emotional person that has way stronger powers, physically way stronger, a darker aura, and so much more. I think I would much rather lean into the cinnamon roll type of esque Izuku Midoriya, where he's kind, he's nice, he's all of these things, and the angel quirk kind of fits him literally perfectly because of the nice and amazing person he wants to be to other people, nice, kind, and stuff like that. And I think it's perfect for Izuku Midoriya. I think those are all the things that would ensue him having powers to this degree. I think him having healing powers, and I think healing powers in general, especially if uncapped, are really strong in the world of My Hero Academia. I think giving All Might a second chance at having almost peak All Might powers, not quite prime, or not quite peak, but almost, it would allow the world to kind of go through a little bit more seamlessly, and we probably wouldn't have as much war and much kind of destruction that the normal My Hero Academia storyline goes down. And a lot of you know how I feel about the normal My Hero Academia storyline, how we divulge from the idea of them being students I don't really like the idea of them divulging so heavily to the way they did, but that's neither here nor there. It's not the topic we're talking about today. I think nonetheless, Izuku Midoriya with an angel quirk allows him to do some amazing things that don't necessarily fit the idea that he normally goes with, and that's punching things or kicking things really, really hard. It gives him a new kind of new fresh coat of paint, you could say, allowing him to heal, support, and help those in need. And helping those in need doesn't make you just a flat out support hero that can't be on those front lines. He still is on the front lines, probably more than anyone else, but he still is one of the best support heroes and one of the best heroes to truly ever exist, leading him to have a very fruitful career of being a hero and everybody knowing him as Deku the Angel, which is perfect, or Deku the Guardian Angel, in which he continues to be the guardian angel of Japan over the course of years to come, all the way into his 20s, 30s, and 40s. As he grows older and older, he still dons those wings, and he still dons kind of those light-filled powers, and everybody watches on as Izuku Midoriya continues his journey of being one of the greatest heroes to ever exist, even if he does things a little bit differently than some of the best heroes from his past. Now, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a little different. It is a movie of What If Deku Had an Angel Quirk, a little bit more faster paced, probably more of an explanatory or explaining type of what if, where I break down what I think would happen or could happen instead of me going more narrative. I honestly enjoyed this. It was a little bit, I went about what I thought I would go, about 45-ish minutes, but I hope you guys still enjoyed. If you guys want more stuff like this, let me know. I'll definitely kind of thread it in. Maybe we'll do a little bit of this. Maybe we'll do a little bit of the narrative stuff. We'll do a little bit of both. I'm sure the comment section is going to be kind of split on it. I know some of you will probably say, hey, I really like the narrative stuff. I think that's way better. Some of you will be like, hey, I really like this a lot better. But I'll try to give a little bit of the best of both worlds. Obviously, I can't please everybody 24/7. It's not necessarily possible. Some people might agree with one thing. Some people might disagree with one thing. That's just what it is. It is what it is. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Nonetheless, this was What If Deku Had an Angel Quirk. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.